Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Flameworking 102.19. Today I wanted to share a fun, abstract, blown pendant with you all. And I have made many little tiny vessels before in the past, but I've never just played around with the bubble like this, so this should be interesting. And for those of you who have been asking about the twisties that I make, I'm going to show you two different ways to make twisties before we get started. And with that said, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon. All right, so I'm going to start out by making some twisties, and I'm going to make some black and white twisties, and I want to show you the two different ways that I make them. And this first way is how I started when I first began lampworking. And it's just taking the end rods and getting about an inch, a half an inch, however much you're comfortable with, nice and warm, and then you are going to stick them together right off the end of the rods. And to even up your edges, what you'll do is heat the end of one color and then bring it into a 90-degree angle and back again, and that will kind of have it sitting in the center of both rods, as you can see here. And then from here, all you're doing is warming and heating everything up, getting it nice and hot. Try not to stretch it out at this point. You can kind of see I'm trying to, keep it together. And then when it's warm enough, go ahead and start twisting and pulling. Now you can get this one a little longer if when things get a little stiff, you kind of start to feather it in the flame, the end. However, that will give you a slightly different or a tighter pattern. So with this specific twisty, I call them all twisted cane, twisted stringers, but with this twisty, it's just a little bit shorter as well. Okay, so now this is how I make my twisties now. So this is a little easier for me, and I'm going to be using the punty rods, and this is just a mandrel. And I'm going to get a nice big gather of my first color hot and get it on my mandrel, and then go ahead and press it down so it makes a half round. And while I'm doing that and keeping it warm in the back of the flame, I'll go ahead and heat up my second color, the white, and get a gather about the same size as I had the black. And then we'll go ahead and just add those together. And from here, it's just kind of very gently rolling everything out to even out the colors. And of course, because I laid the white down last, it is a lot hotter than the black. So I want to spend a little bit of time after I shape up the white side to start heating and getting some melting going on the black side so I can match the same shape as the white. And then I'll just bring it up into kind of a point here at the end. And when I go to punty up, I want to make sure that I'm touching both colors. Now, either one of these methods is valid. There's no, wrong way to do this. But with the metal punties, I feel like the glass is much more secure, and I get a lot more twisted, a lot more even pattern, and I get a longer twisty as well. Yeah, you can see how much more you get here. So it really just kind of depends on what you're looking for is how you'll make your twisted cane. There's a nice long twist there. And as you can see, the first one that I did, I'll show you here in a second. Okay, so this first one, you can see all the difference in the patterns. It's not very even, but that really works out for certain applications. So whichever one you want, go ahead and make some twisted stringer and make a lot of it if you want to follow along with this demo. Okay, so what I want to do is with most of my pendants, I'm going to start out, as always, by making a hook bead because I'm horrible at making hooks. So I have my color. It's called Triton, and it is a double helix color. And I'm just going to get a little bit on my mandrel to make a very small bead, or however, large I want the bail to be. And right here, I just gave it a reduction, and I'm going to put it in the annealer right at the edge of the door, and my annealer's running at 1,000 degrees. Okay, so now for the actual blown piece. Okay, so I have my mini blowpipe, and I'm going to get the end hot, and I just add a little bit of clear on the end. You may not have to do this. You might just be able to start out by, getting your wraps going. Either way, once I have that collar on there, I'm going to start wrapping a nice wide disc right off of the end of the blowpipe. And you can use whatever colors you like. And there you see, it's about the size of a quarter. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, as I am, adding the glass, and you don't have to add it all at once. You can swipe it on if you need to. But what I'm doing is I'm starting to do like a coil pot effect all the way around the front side, and I'm tapering it as well. So what happens here is it traps a bubble inside of your glass. And I'm going to shape it up, and you'll see this bubble appear. And I wish I had thought about this earlier, but this is really the best way to make a shard because the bubble's already there, ready to go. So I'm going to blow this out just a little bit, and you see I'm not going to blow it out any more than what I have there. If you're a little off center with your bubble, it's okay. These are just little fantasy forms. It's nothing, that you have to be extremely perfect with. So, do your best to practice and get a nice even bubble. At some point you'll get there, but you can definitely do this with an uneven bubble. So on top of that bubble, I'm going to start adding our twisty, and I'm going to wrap it all the way down from the collar all the way down to the end of the bubble. And the second one I picked up here wasn't working for me. I don't know why. It may have had a little bubble inside of it, but it just kept breaking. So I had to scramble to find another one. And either way, it doesn't matter. If it breaks off, you might or might not see that point on the inside where there's another one attached. Either way, it's going to look great. Okay, so now that I have all the cane on there, I love the way this looks. It's so fun. I'm going to start heating everything up, and I want a really nice even heat so I don't collapse the bubble. And as I'm heating this up, it will start to shrink a little bit. So don't be nervous if you think like the bubble's gone. It's still in there, it's just small. And it'll make it easier to manage from here on out. So, if you want to puff a little air in here, go ahead, but I am going to wait until after this next coating is done. All right, so I'm going to let that cool down a little bit, and I'm going to start to add the double helix Triton all the way around this piece. I want to make sure that I completely encase this whole thing, and it is a transparent color here, which is fine because I'm going to reduce it so the outside is going to look opaque. Either way, you can use an opaque color here, you can use a transparent color, you can get really creative in what is happening on the inside as opposed to the outside of the bubble. Okay, I'm just going to finish off here by adding a little to the top. And once I have that coated on there, I'm just going to do a little bit of heating and shaping. I want to get back into a really nice round form. All right, we're just about there, and I want to give it a little bit more heat here and start to blow it out. You know, the glass really needs to be pretty hot in order to blow a nice even bubble, and you want it evenly hot as well. I thought I had it hot enough here, but I didn't, so I am going into the side of my flame to get a little bit more heat like we did on these shards, and this time you can really see it puff up. As soon as it puffs up, you want to stop. You know, I just didn't feel comfortable blowing it out anymore. I was worried about the thickness of the bubble, but I really didn't need to worry. In the long run, the bubble is fairly thick already. It's still thick. I could blow this out quite a bit more, but because I want to be able to, you know, control this glass, I don't want it to be too thin. Okay, so the bottom of this is fairly thick, so I'm just going to add a punty right to the bottom and then go ahead and heat your blowpipe and start to pull it out of the bubble. And in a perfect world, you will have an open bubble here. And if you don't, like I didn't, I just got my tungsten pick hot and kind of like bored a hole right into the opening there. But there's several different ways that you could get this opened up. You could use your tweezers and tweeze it out a little bit. But once you have established that, yes, you do have an opening there, you can start to heat and open it up with either, I'm using a graphite rod, and the graphite's nice because it doesn't stick to the glass. If you don't have a graphite rod, you can use a metal tool. You just want to make sure that you're using it outside of the flame. And you can see some of that pattern through the color, which I love, but it disappears after I reduce it in the end. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of a lip wrap to this, and this can be any color you want. It can be like a completely contrasting color, and you'll see this in the little bit of spirals that we're going to do in the end here on the lip. So having a little lip wrap, you know, kind of makes it a little bit more fancy. I'm going to shape it up and go ahead and start to heat this up again. You know, looking back on this, it would probably have been better for me to just focus all my heat on the front half like I'm doing here, but it kind of like everything kind of started to get a little too hot. So my back end started to get a little funky there, but I maintained. I'm just doing my best at this point to get an open form. And yes, it might look a little sloppy, but you gotta start somewhere. So, you know, this is not something that I do every day, this style of piece. So it takes practice. All right, when things are open as far as you want them to be, what I want to do is open it even wider. So I'm going to pull two sides of it nice and wide, just like that. And then I'll go ahead and start heating the sides a little bit and opening them up as well. And again, I'm using a graphite rod here so I can kind of work it in the flame. I kind of felt for a second like, I don't know what I'm doing. I hope I'm not alone. Okay, so I thought it would be fun to open this even wider. So I have just a clear glass rod, and I'm spot heating each side and kind of pulling them out into these points. So I'm pulling out 4 corners of this piece. I want to be able to see what's going on in here. And you know, with a piece like this, it's a fantasy form. It's an abstract form. It can be whatever you want. But here I'm just going to go ahead and check it out real quick. I like how it's looking, but I do want to refine these little corners here. So I'll just take a little bit more glass off the corners and go from there. Okay, I'm going to take a second to just smooth the back out a little bit. I just want to make sure that nothing's folded or creasing back there. Yeah, I love the way this looks, you guys. Okay, so now it's time to do some twisting and have a little fun and get a little free-form shape going here. So I'm going to spot heat the inside and outside of one corner. And then I'm going to grab it with just a regular pair of tweezers and do my best to give it some kind of a spiral. And I kind of felt like moving the pipe was easier than trying to twist the tweezers. And of course, be careful pulling your tweezers out of the glass. You don't want to get them embedded into the glass. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. And just grab that with a pair of tweezers and go ahead and give it a twist. I want to make sure I don't twist it too much. I don't want to twist it to the point where the opening closes. I always want to see a little bit of the inside here. And it did disappear a little bit, so now is the chance to open it up and finish our form. So I'm just going to use my tweezers and heat some of those side edges and just start to pull it open a little bit. Really, it's whatever you want this to look like. And it absolutely does look like a seashell. And if I had a seashell in front of me, maybe I would try to follow that form. But because I don't, I'm just kind of going with how I'm feeling at the moment. And I have a little bit left to do here. I just want to lift up this top part so I can see the inside just a little bit more. And that's about it here. I really like the way this looks. Okay, so I'm going to just take a second to I want to reduce this. I want to reduce the whole thing. And whether I should have reduced it now or at the very, very end, I don't know. I'm just kind of going with the flow, you know? So I'm going to give it a good reduction. And now I'm ready to go ahead and pull my hook bead out of my annealer and dip the hot end in water. And then I can go ahead and heat both the hook and the piece and attach them together. And you know, I don't know what I was thinking, you guys. At this point, I probably should have, like, you know, put it on a glass punty, but I didn't. So I just, you know, heated the crap out of that mandrel, pulled it out, gave it an extra heat and a little bit more reduction, and we are done. So I hope you all enjoyed this one. I am excited to try some more blowing of soft glass. So hopefully we'll be able to do that soon. And I will see you all next time in the dungeon.